Okay, well, I will just start letting people in as we go, but we can get started. So I'll just do a couple of introductions, and then Lauren is going to take over. So my name's Peyton. I'm with Kiln. Thanks for joining us today. We recently opened up a space in Boulder, Colorado this last fall. So we were super excited when we got to partner with this event with Simple Startup. So I'll read a little brief description on Lorne and what Simple Startup does, and then he's going to take over for the presentation. So, a serial entrepreneur, Lorne Noble combined his favorite aspects of the corporate world and prior business, the analytics and helping young companies, when he founded Simple Startup, his fourth company, in a location fit for a former professional ski racer, Boulder. Simple Startup was born from observation, experience, and necessity. Having worked with hundreds of entrepreneurs, he often saw the same pattern repeated, where incredible startups with mind-blowing visions and drive lacked a handle on their finances and suffered because of it. Entrepreneurs are making decisions based on gut feel rather than a hard data, leaving them open to risk when raising money and implementing strategy. They were unable to translate their vision into a sustainable, profitable business model. As a principal and co-founder of Simple Startup, Noble dives into the analytics of companies he advises while helping them simplify their finances, understand their numbers, and make smart, informed decisions at every stage of the business. He leads a talented group of financial analysts who are experts in investment-ready accounting, fractional finance support, business taxes, and more, helping companies go from idea to IPO and beyond. So Lauren has about a 45-minute presentation prepared today, so he's going to take over, share his screen. We are open for questions at the end. So in the chat of the Zoom, if anything comes to mind, just start sending your questions in on there, and then we will get to them at the end. So I will turn it over to you, Lauren.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Peyton. I hope that if you can give me the thumbs up, Peyton, that you can hear me well. I just want to make sure that everyone, perfect. Great. Yeah. Nothing worse than starting a few slides and realizing you have to go backwards. Okay, well, good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, depending on where you are in the US, where you are in the world. Hi, and welcome to my webinar, when I'm going to be going to exclusively share with you 3 of my secrets to raising money for strategic high growth without having to talk to a single investor and give away equity, or even spend a moment in due diligence as investors pore over every aspect of your business. So we'll spend the next 40 minutes or so talking about how you can increase cash without having to give away a huge percentage of your business. I will walk you step by step through how to change small but key parts of your business to move you quickly from cash strapped and overstressed to cash positive and worry-free. At the end of this webinar, I'll give you the opportunity to get your hands on a special bonus offer as well, which I'll give you the exciting details of at the end of this session together. So please do hang tight. Now, I know how busy you are, but if you're anything like me, multitasking means that you don't actually end up focusing on anything at all. So please do turn off your cell phone, close all of your other web pages, turn off your notifications, and give yourself the gift of truly focusing on what we're talking about for the next while. I know how tempting it is just to fire off a quick email, but resist. Instead, take out a pen and paper and flex those rarely used writing muscles to take some notes. Remember, focusing for the next hour could result in finding 100,000 or more for your business's growth strategy. So in terms of cost benefit, it's probably worth it. You may be wondering if this webinar is the best way for you to spend the next 40 to 45 minutes or so of your life. I know that you're super busy running your business, so let's just make sure that you're in the right place. Well, this webinar is definitely for you if you really want to accelerate the growth of your business. You may have been cruising along pretty well so far, but now you're ready to step things up a notch. But stepping up things up a notch means that you will need access to cash to allocate to your strategic growth initiatives. Number 2 is you want to be 100% available to your business in order to build your business. Does the idea of schmoozing investors fill you with horror? Or does the thought of taking 6 months out of the day-to-day of running your business to pitch your vision hundreds of times seem like it will send your business backwards? If this sounds like you, then this webinar is really going to make your life easier. Number 3, you want to maintain control. You want to be in the driver's seat of your business, so you can control which direction it goes in and when, instead of being dictated to by a bunch of investors who are holding the purse strings. And finally, number 4, you want to avoid dilution. We work with a super successful granola bar company. The founder was a second-time entrepreneur, and in his first business had certainly learned a few hard lessons. With his first business, which shall remain unnamed, he got into the Whole Foods early on, Whole Foods food company early on, and was excited to receive a giant order. However, he didn't have the money to pay for manufacturing, so he scrambled together some basic financial projections and went out in desperation to get urgent investment in order to fulfill the order. A highly experienced investor jumped in, much to the entrepreneur's relief, but as he grew and took on more investment, he realized that his ownership was diluted down to only 15%. As his company became super successful, he was eventually ousted from his position as CEO, and the investors brought in their own management team. When the company was sold, he received way less money than he deserved or could have done if he'd waited longer to get investment and taken the time to build out a proper financial model where he could test out different scenarios and really be able to see how he could find more money within his business and thus go out to investors at a later date when he was ready to play hardball. So I'd love to hear from you in terms of what your motivation is for joining this masterclass today. You can enter kind of 1, 2, 3, or 4 into the chat box below, and I'll see what your interest is in this particular webinar today. And I'll just wait a few minutes if you want to kind of answer some questions there. All right, so a few coming in here. Perfect. I see some 2s coming in here, some 1 and a 4 coming in here, and some other 1s as well. So growing business quickly clearly is a big one here, not wasting time schmoozing, and a combination of the 2. So thank you everyone for jumping those responses in here. All right, well, whatever your motivation for being here is, I fully support you. I really do get it. I'm a business owner too, and I've had all of these same feelings. I come from a long line of entrepreneurs. My wife is also an entrepreneur, and even my kids, who are only 4 and 7, have started their own YouTube channel. So these are exactly the challenges my whole family has faced at one time or another, except for my brother. He's one of those mean VCs that we're trying to save your business from. I'm just kidding. He's actually one of the nice ones. Now, why should you listen to me? Well, I love finance so that you don't have to. Seriously, I play with Excel spreadsheets whilst on vacation. It drives my wife and kids crazy. That's me. I spent 12 years in corporate London as an investment analyst, then made the jump to Boulder, Colorado to act as a finance mentor to high impact companies at Techstars, Cartier's Women Initiative, Unreasonable Group, Next Wave Fund, Singularity University, Nike Girl Effect Accelerator, Uncharted, YPO, A+ Accelerator, to name just a few. I have an MBA from IE Business School in Madrid, in Spain. I have a certificate in advanced financial modeling from London School of Business and Finance, and I am super passionate, above all, about helping companies develop growth-focused financial strategies. On a personal note, I used to be a professional ski racer, as Peyton mentioned. I hate mushrooms with a passion, and I adore hanging out with my 2 little girls, Amber and Lila, and my wife, Verity. I founded Simple Startup because I saw so many businesses failing because they didn't have a strong handle on their finances. I saw investors coming in and, not to put too fine a point on it, taking advantage of entrepreneurs and taking away control of their companies from them. I wanted to put entrepreneurs in the driving seat and give them the knowledge and tools to run their business better, raise money without going to investors, and when the time was right, go to investors armed with all the right knowledge to make a win-win deal that suited both parties. I've started multiple companies, so I know all about these challenges firsthand, and I want to help you face them with ease. At Simple Startup, we've helped hundreds of entrepreneurs manage and grow their businesses. This experience, alongside our quest for simplicity and accessibility, has enabled us to create a variety of strategies and tools that entrepreneurs can use to help them make better decisions and grow their business exponentially, both with and without external investment. We have a team of almost 40 people and have multiple millions in revenue. This didn't happen by accident. We followed a carefully thought out numbers-based plan. Now, just imagine if you could also have a numbers-based plan. Imagine if you had a financial roadmap to success, that you knew exactly how much money you needed in order to achieve your vision. that you had a variety of different options available to find the money that you need, not just having to go and beg investors. And think just how awesome it would be if you knew every single cost and revenue driver in your business so that you could reduce the number of surprises that will hit you along the way. And trust me, there will be many. Well, with this webinar and some of the additional resources we'll share with you at the end, you can feel in control of your finances, have a roadmap for success, know how to find money before you have to go to investors, and be totally ready to present to investors when or even if that time comes. Now, here's the one thing I really want you to know. Truly understanding your financials means that you are no longer flying by the seat of your pants and making guesses about how to raise money and run your business. Instead, you would have a financial roadmap for success, which will give you a blueprint to grow your business and your company with confidence and ease. As I promised, I'm now going to walk you through the 3 secrets to raising money for strategic high growth without having to talk to a single investor. Now, before I start to share these secrets, don't worry too much about taking extensive notes. We want to provide as much value to you today as possible, and hence we prepared a directory of resources for you with more than 80 different resources that are honed in on the 3 secrets we're about to share with you. We'll be sharing the link to download this directory towards the end of this webinar. First up, let's create a dummy business. And we'll just talk about a product business here, and let's call it the Tinned Tofu Company, because my wife is vegan. She eats a ton of tinned tofu, but she absolutely hates the fact that it comes in plastic, which is not the most economically viable material to recycle. She always says that if she was to start a food company, and bear in mind that she's not looked into the viability of this in terms of shelf life, taste, etc., it would be to take all those vegan products she loves and repackage them in something more easily recyclable, like a tin, with much better branding than the tin of tofu in this picture. So let's imagine that the Tinned Tofu Company received an order from Nude Foods Market for 20,000 tins of tofu. In order to fulfill that order, we would have to pay for all the ingredients, the packaging, the labeling, the shipping, all of our staff's time, and probably throw in some freebies to sweeten the deal. And we'd have to do all of this months before Nude Foods paid us any money. So we're on the brink of huge success, but like many of you, we need a lot of dollars in order to make this deal and this business happen. I'm going to use the financial model template from our Fill in the Blanks financial modeling course to illustrate the example. Let's imagine for a quick second that we've entered all of the revenue and expense information, including cost of goods sold, staffing costs, sales and marketing, research and development, as well as general and administrative costs, and that we jump into our cash flow chart on the Key Data and Charts tab to see what the future of this business is looking like. Your business's cash flow may look something like this. This is the standard hockey stick curve we probably all know and love. It is simply the cash flow statement in graphical form. You can see that cash turned negative in April and May of 2020 and stays negative until whatever we got here, August of 2021, where the model has determined that we need $100,000 in cash. Now, this graph represents how much cash you spend and generate over time. At the beginning, you're spending more than you're making to build the business. Then when it takes off, you're making a lot more than you're spending and hopefully get to cash flow positive. Finally, we always recommend adding substantial contingency to the money that you think you may be able to raise, because like a building project, businesses almost take more time and more money, and quite frankly, sweat and tears too, to get off the ground than you expect. And the last thing you want to do is to spend all of your time finding money for your business rather than actually building the business. So if your model is telling you to raise 100,000, you'll want to consider raising at least 25% more than this to act as a little contingency for those little unknown eventualities. Therefore, we need about $125,000 to develop the initial vision of this business. How should we go about raising this capital? The obvious answer most people choose is to speak to investors and persuade them on how awesome their business is and how much money it's going to make for that investor. But don't forget, just like roses are triple the price on Valentine's Day and Uber charges double the price when it's raining, investors will charge more when you're in greater need. So if this is the route that you want to take, start conversations and build the relationships today. However, there are more creative ways of finding money for your business without giving most of your business away in equity. Let's look at those 3 ways that we could do this with the tinned tofu company. So the first way here is to take out a loan. Now I know loans aren't exactly a new idea, but there are so many different types of loans, some considerably less obvious to most of you, that can help secure the financing you need without giving up equity in your business. A little side note before we move on. When thinking about loans and the cost of loans, it's very useful to consider the expected internal rate of return, or IRR, most equity investors require as part of their own financial planning. As a frame of reference, most equity investors are expecting an IRR of about 30% from their investment in you. So while the investor does not charge you month by month for their capital, like a loan, it's worth bearing in mind how expensive equity capital actually is for fast-growing companies. So it raises the question, if you A, believe that you're going to have a financially successful company, B, your company is creditworthy, and C, the loans your company can establish cost less than 30% per annum, then why would you take equity? My guess is that various forms of loans are more accessible than many of you think. So let's move on to start talking about the options. We've prepared 5 different categories of loan options, ranging from most obvious to least obvious. So please do bear with us. The most obvious and the first category here is traditional banking loans. Traditional banks typically offer term loans and lines of credit. We felt we needed to mention these as they represent a significant portion of the loans issued. However, they generally need to be secured against assets, and this can be challenging for many entrepreneurs. As a side note, it's often the case that smaller and more local lenders will be more active compared to the mega banks. This is because smaller banks are keener to grow a banking relationship with you at a younger age. Banks such as Flatirons, Vectra, and MidFirst Bank here in Colorado are all examples of local lenders that support the Colorado and Front Range startup community. Even with blossoming banking relationships, it's entirely possible that bankers' computers simply say no, unless you're able to find a way to reduce the risk of a loan, such as a personal guarantee, or putting up something pretty valuable like your house as security. Now, given that 90% of startups fail, 9 out of 10 entrepreneurs who take this route could end up losing their entire homes, and that's not a happy thought. But don't panic. There are many other types of loans that may be less risky as well as more accessible to you. So one of these is an SBA guaranteed loan. So the SBA and Small Business Administration is a United States government agency that provides support to entrepreneurs and small businesses. If you're outside of the US, there are many organizations like this in different countries across the world. Do some Googling to find out if you have something like this in your country. The SBA works with many traditional banks and lending partners and guarantees a portion of the loans that they make should these loans default. This takes a large amount of the risk off the plate of the bank and lending partner, which in turn allows them to lend to you more cost effectively. Lenders and loan programs have unique eligibility requirements. In general, eligibility is based on what a business does to receive its income, the character of its ownership, and where the business operates. And normally, businesses must meet size standards, be able to repay, and have sound business purpose. Even those with bad credit may still qualify for startup funding. Most specifically, take a look at some of the SBA 7A loans. These are for lines of credit, purchasing of equipment, purchasing of businesses, buying a partner out of your business, etc. There has been a lot of increased flexibility to these types of SBA loans recently as part of the overall stimulus act from federal government. Now, there are great incentives out on some of these loans, and I want to just touch on a few of them, as the amount of the loan guaranteed by the SBA increased from about 75% to 90%, thereby ensuring that lenders are more willing to provide these loans to start up more risky companies. The SBA is also making the initial 6 months on these loan payments for you, a huge incentive to take out some of these loans, and a reduction on the loan fees. Now, please do reach out to your business banker about these types of loans to support your business, but it's worthwhile just mentioning the 7A loans at the moment. There's a lot of great stimulus being provided through the SBA to make these loans more accessible and more cost effective. So another option is financing your accounts receivable. Now, not all companies have accounts receivable. So the act of financing your accounts receivable is called factoring. So factoring works really well for young companies that struggle with negotiating better accounts receivable terms with their customers. If a really large customer tells you that they pay their bills, i.e. your invoice, in 60, 90, or 120 days, this can be super challenging for your cash flow. Now, fret not, there are companies out there that aim to solve this problem for you by buying your customer invoices from you. This gives you cash faster than you would otherwise have been possible. It clearly comes with a charge for doing so. If you can, you may want to think about increasing the price of your products to your customers in order to maintain your margins whilst using factoring. So factoring is usually structured as an asset sale. In other words, invoices are sold to the financier, or as a loan, using the invoices as security for the loan. So how does factoring technically work? Well, since AR is reported on a company's balance sheet as an asset, and a short-term one at that, they are considered a liquid asset, meaning that they can relatively easily be turned into cash and thus have value to the factoring company. So factoring is becoming more and more common and can sometimes be easier for a small or younger business to secure in lieu of traditional finance, and often require substantially less time to commit than other financing methods. There's some great factoring companies out there. Our favorites include companies like Bluevine, Circle Up, and Goodman. More examples are in our resource directory. Our fourth loan category today is inventory financing. Inventory financing is where a business obtains credit, or essentially a short-term loan from a financier. This loan is secured against a company's products or inventory. Now, again, that will apply to a product company, not necessarily a service or a SaaS company. So this financing option is another great opportunity for smaller young businesses to attain funding when they have limited alternative sources due to poor credit or not enough business history. Inventory financing works similar to lines of credit or short-term loans and allows you to invest capital into your business, such as your sales and marketing, that assist with turning that inventory into sales. So again, we work with many inventory financing partners, again, such as Bluevine, Cabbage, Fundbox. Again, please do check our resource directory for more information on these. Our fifth loan category here is customer financing. Now, you may not think of this as a financing, but ultimately your customers can prepay you and that be a form of financing to your business. The customer financing is simply the pursuit of your customers to paying you up front in advance for your product or service. Inevitably, you will either only offer pay in advance products and services if you're working with enterprise companies, for instance, or more likely you may have both pay-as-you-go services in addition to pay in advance with a discount attributed to those customers paying in advance. In other words, funding and financing your company. Now, this is often overlooked not only as a great way to finance your business, but also a great way to create contracted income for the next year. This is mouth-watering to your business's cash flow, simple for your business's operations, as well as pleasing to your investors to have customers committed to your business for a year. Now, annual prepayments from customers are more prevalent in the SaaS industry as they are for like companies with high gross margins and a consistent product offering. They typically offer 10 to 20% discounts compared to their post-pay plans or month-by-month plans for a one-year commitment, and even more discounts for a 2 or more year commitment. What you end up offering to your customer base should be considered in conjunction with your company's cost of capital. So what do I mean by that? I mean the amount it would otherwise cost you to raise a similar amount of external capital. So always do bear that in mind when looking at this option. And there are other notable financing options here, and these are credit cards. And I'm pretty certain all of you know what a credit card is, but what I'm really talking about here is finding credit card providers that offer free transfer fees and also 0% interest for a year. Essentially, you can use your credit card as an interest-free loan and avoid high interest rates by transferring card balances as needed. Your overall goal here is with this financing option is to access this easier to attain cash until your company is big enough to have access to cheaper capital later on. We work with many different credit card operators as a firm here at Simple Startup, many of which offer 0% interest rates for 9 to 18 months. Some of those are ones listed in our PDF and include Citibank, US Bank, Wells Fargo as examples. So another notable financing option is peer-to-peer financing. And these are essentially avoid the middle person, in other words, the bank, and they allow you to borrow from lenders themselves. Now, this can result in more cost-effective lending than from the high street banks. So peer-to-peer loans have looser eligibility requirements. They're quick to turn around for approval, and you may be able to get really good terms if you have good credit. As with any form of financing, don't forget to read the paperwork and truly understand what you're signing. Our favorites for peer-to-peer lending are Credible, Lending Tree, and also Upstart. Another one here is revenue-based financing. So this is a great debt-based consideration, is revenue-based financing. And you can be eligible for up to $3 million in growth funding in as little as 4 weeks. And the principal and interest repayments are totally flexible, allowing you to pay back more when your net revenue and margins are higher and less when they are lower. So our favorite provider here is Lighter Capital, as they have dedicated to providing revenue-based financing to early stage startups. The final one of the other notable financing options here is vendor financing. And vendor financing may be less traditional option, but shouldn't be taken off the table. So in vendor financing, a business owner speaks to their vendors to broach the opportunity of paying their bills later or in installments. Essentially, the vendor takes the balance of what the business owes them and puts it into a loan, acting as the bank. So to fully explain, let's work through an example. So Simple Startup recently worked with a food and beverage company who had to outlay a large amount of capital upfront for their product to be manufactured, housed in a warehouse, shipped to their warehouse, and finally sold to their customers. With vendor financing, they were able to negotiate a 12-month loan with 0% interest, allowing them to keep some of their much-needed cash on hand. Their alternative was raising equity capital that would have cost a fortune, 30+% per annum. But instead, the 0% vendor financing improved their cash flow dramatically and enhanced not only investor relationships, but also board relationships. Okay, so using the tinned tofu example, let's see how some of the above loan options impact the financing needs of the company. So in order to forecast the loans in your financial model, you'll need a model that is sophisticated enough to project your balance sheet balances and at the same time the resultant interest expense impact on your income statement. Using one of the models that we've prepared, and of course, assuming we're successful in obtaining a term loan for $10,000 from a traditional bank, you would navigate to the balance sheet tab and scroll down to the non-current liabilities section to complete the various assumptions. First, you'd find an area that says senior debt, which will be under non-current liabilities. We enter the name of the first loan, let's call it Loans Are Us. The date of the loan, 1st of January, the amount of the loan, $10,000. The term of the loan, let's say 5 years, and the annual interest rate, let's assume 8%. In addition, let's assume we're successful with an SBA loan for $5,000. We would navigate again to the balance sheet tab and scroll down to the liability section. First, we'd find the area that refers to senior debt again, and then enter the name of the lender. This time, let's call it Bank of Pluto. The date of the loan, 1st of March, the amount of the loan, $5,000, the term of the loan, let's assume it's 5 years, and the interest rate on the loan, let's assume 7%. Let's check out what these two loans on their own have done to the amount of cash we need by jumping back into our model's Key Data and Charts tab. You can see that the model now shows that we've reduced our cash deficit from 100,000 to 88,000. Now, if you're expecting to see the cash balance reduced to 85, not 88,000, don't forget that these loans carry interest and principal repayment terms. Now let's move on to from secret number 1 and on to secret number 2. Secret number 2 is using accounts receivable and accounts payable to improve your working capital and hence your cash flow. In case you don't know what these are, AR stands for accounts receivable, i.e. what people owe you, and AP stands for accounts payable, i.e. the money that you owe to others. So thinking back to our tinned tofu example, where we're having to stump up all the money to manufacture 20,000 cans of tinned tofu, make various sales, but we won't receive payment on those sales until 90 days after we delivered it. That's a pretty big hole that we've got to fill. So what if we were able to negotiate and change our AR terms with customers from 90 days to, say, 45 days? You may not realize this, but a small change to your AR terms has an impact, a significant impact to your cash flow. Now, reducing your AR terms might not be possible with big, powerful retailers as your customers, but it certainly doesn't hurt to ask, and it will likely work better with smaller retailers. If you're having problems with long AR terms, don't forget to consider factoring your invoices with one of our recommended partners. So to forecast the impact of changing AR terms on your cash flow, you need to be a sophisticated model that projects your balance sheet. Let's jump back into the example where we still have an 88,000 shortfall. We'll head over to the balance sheet tab and search for accounts receivable days under the current assets in the balance sheet assumptions. You can see that we are collecting most of our payments from our customers within 60 days, with 20% of our customers pushing payments out to 3 months. Let's imagine we change Tin Tofu's AR days to 45 days. In other words, everyone pays you within 45 days. We'll change all the periods to 0 except the 30 days and the 60 days period, which we'll put at 50% to represent a 45-day payment period. I'm using an aggressive example here that may not be strictly realistic, but it will indicate how changing your AR days can significantly help with cash flow. Then let's jump over to our key data and charts page to see what impact this has had on cash. So you can see that we now need a lot less cash than before. The model is forecasting that we only need $57,000. AR days, or days sales outstanding, and the reduction thereof is one of the best company metrics for you to track. And we have provided some really useful comparable insights on this metric across various different industries in our resource directory. So you know where you stand and how much negotiating room you have. Similarly, you can play with your accounts payable terms. Can you negotiate greater credit with your suppliers? Instead of paying them on 15 or 30-day terms, can you get them to extend this to 30 or 60 days, or perhaps even 90 days without causing too much strain on the relationship? To show you an example, let's jump into the balance sheet tab where you'll see the AP days metric and assumption here. We're paying 80% of our bills within 30 days. What do you think happens if we extended this to 75 days? Well, we can model this out by putting 50% in the 60 days and 50% in the 90 days to make an average of 75 days. Again, moving all your AP to 75 days is unlikely to happen, but this will show you how these changes can really affect the amount of cash that you need. If we hop over to the cash flow chart, you'll see that all of our changes thus far have reduced our cash needs from $100,000 down to $16,000 without talking to a single investor and giving away any equity. So by simply amending the terms with your customers and vendors, you can have a significant impact on the amount of cash that you need to raise. Our example evidenced that over $70,000 of the $100,000 that we needed to raise, that's over 70% of your capital raise, was found by simply changing your AR and AP terms. Now, this is huge and frequently overlooked by business owners as they plan their capital raise. As with AR, AP days and the increase thereof will likely be a core metric of your business that you will track over time. So we haven't hit our 100,000 just yet, but there's still one more secret to come, as Tinned Tofu Company still needs approximately $16,000. The third and final secret we're going to share is pitch competitions and grant funding. These are often overlooked too. Seek out competitions where you can promote your company, its brand, develop your business, and also have the opportunity for a cash prize, or at the very least, services which will save you money in areas of your business. So by entering a competition, you are doing so many things in one go. Validating your product market fit. Do people want what you're offering? Introducing your brand to new people, getting great feedback from judges, plus all the prizes. Win, 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 and win. And even if you don't win, it's great pitch practice for when you're 100% ready to go to investors and raise money on your terms. There are many great examples of these competitions. Many are industry agnostic and more location specific. But don't worry, we've done some of the hard work for you by listing out a number of them in your resource directory and broken them out by cash prizes and services and awards. For example, if you're a food company, the Naturally Network runs pitch slam competitions each year with an incredible prize pack. Imagine the tin tofu company stood up there, pitched the heck out of tin tofu, and walked away with first prize, which included $50,000 of services that it would have otherwise had to pay for. Let's hop back into the model to see how that affects the money that we need to raise. First, navigate to the General and Administrative tab, where we've allocated $100,000 for professional services each year for the next 5 years. And for ease, let's assume the prize pack included a 5-year subscription to Simple Startup's strategic accounting services, plus 40 hours with one of our CFOs. We're clearly very generous. So in your projections, you can simply reduce the accounting and CFO budget to 0 because the prize pack included the exact services we would otherwise have needed. Now let's navigate back to our key data and charts. You'll see that we actually have a surplus of about $18,500. Boom, we have made it. We found $100,000 without speaking to a single investor and giving away equity. And all of these assumptions are applicable no matter the size of your company. In other words, it is equally plausible that we can find $1 million without speaking to a single investor using many of the secrets talked about in this webinar. And there are plenty more business model and financial planning strategies up my sleeve that I can share with you another time. So if high growth is your goal, then how exactly do you go about deciding how much money you need in order to grow your business? How can you do what I just did and play with scenarios so that you can see which funding options would be best for you and how you can knit them together strategically to accelerate your company's growth fastest? Would you like me to teach you how to truly understand your financials and how to use this knowledge to help make more informed business decisions and hence lead your business with more certainty? You probably tried to build a roadmap for growth yourself, either with a business plan or even a financial model. You haven't made much headway because you're constantly getting distracted by the day-to-day of your life and business. There's always something or someone needing something from you that pulls you away from making a start. You also have a nagging doubt about whether you'll be able to build a model, even if you did have the time. You're more interested in creating great products, providing awesome services, and selling them to fabulous people than struggling through building out a credible spreadsheet to help you decide the direction of the business or raise money. At this point, the way I see it, you've got 2 options moving forward. Option 1, you don't make a plan to roadmap your business, and you're in the same place this time next year, draining time, money, and energy without growing your business. Or option 2, you 100% commit to filling in and understanding your 5-year financial plan using a proven roadmap and accelerate your business's growth beyond your wildest dreams. So if you're ready to grow your business and would like a roadmap to do so, I'd like to personally invite you to the Simple Startup Academy and our Fill in the Blanks financial modeling course. So here it is. Here's your invitation to our Fill in the Blanks financial modeling course. And because we are so happy you joined us today, we're going to give you an extra special offer. If you're totally ready to sign up and you sign up before the end of this webinar at 2 p.m. Mountain Time, an extra 20 minutes or so, using the code SIGNMEUP, you will receive 20% off the course price for a total of $1,200. Now, my colleague Rachel will share the link with you right now in the chat feature. Now, don't worry, whilst we want to incentivize those who are ready to make change, if you need time to mull things over, that's totally understandable. We'll follow up by email with the code KILN2021 for a 10% off the course price through the end of April. So the Fill in the Blanks financial modeling course is a 5-week course and you're going to love it. Why, you may ask? Because the Fill in the Blanks financial modeling course gives you a tool that is not only vital for raising money, but also provides a roadmap you can follow to run and grow your business. We'll support you in translating your vision into a fully adjustable by you financial model that enables you to run a variety of different scenarios to see what happens. In other words, when I change my terms to my vendors or my customers, how does this impact my cash? Or if I decide to change my month-by-month subscriptions to annually prepaid subscriptions, how does this impact my revenue and cash? This course helps you going from feeling overwhelmed and underfunded to having a 5-year financial plan to guide you, and if you decide to go that route, convince investors to give you money. Oh, and I see there's a little problem here on this particular slide, but let me jump on to the next slide. So let me tell you what you may get inside of the Fill in the Blanks financial modeling course. So by the end of this course, you will have a 3-statement financial model built on more than 10,000 hours of modeling, step-by-step video instruction from me, a CFO, guiding you through every section of the model, instruction documents to back up each video and reinforce what you learned, so you don't have to take copious notes, Excel tips and tricks, so that whether you're an Excel whiz or you've never used it before, we've got you covered, an understanding of how much money you need to raise, a well thought through financial fundraising strategy so that you know the most efficient and effective places to find that money, a forecast and budget that you can use to track performance until you know where you're supposed to be. How do you know if you've got there? And how would you know that you needed to course correct? And then finally, a roadmap that you can follow to grow your business. Without it, it's a little bit like driving with your eyes closed, not a good idea. So we seem to be having some slide issues here just now. Apologies for this. This course consists of 5 modules: building the background knowledge, determining revenue, understanding cost of goods sold and operating expenses, populating and forecasting the balance sheet, and interpreting and owning the outputs. So we work hard together to build a foundation of knowledge and then add building blocks to ensure you understand the model and therefore your business from the bottom up as well as the top down. And this gives you the right information and tools you need to decide on how you want to raise money, and using those 3 secrets plus many more that we'll teach you in this course to ensure your company can grow while still maintaining maximum ownership. So this course has many awesome bonuses already included. Included bonus 1 is that you get access to weekly CFO sessions during the course, so that you can ask questions in advance and then get them answered live on screen. And this has a value in excess of $3,000. Bonus 2 is that you get access to a private Facebook group with a CFO who will be monitoring daily for the duration of the course to answer any queries or questions that you have. This is also a great place to interact with your peers in the course and learn from them too. Now, I've lowballed this and put a value of about $1,250 on it, but on average, our CFOs are providing more than 5 hours of Q&A support over the 5 weeks of the course, so it adds up to a lot more. Plus, even when you completed your Academy course, the private Facebook group will always be available to you. These bonuses alone add up to more than $4,250 of value. Not sure if any of you recognize Sal here from the show Impractical Jokers, but if you haven't seen it, I highly recommend watching it. My wife and I laugh until we cry. So what you're really getting with this course is over $9,000 of knowledge and tools that will have a massive effect on the way that you do your business and your ability to grow, scale, and become more profitable. As I mentioned, I know that my bootstrapped nose to the grindstone community, so instead of a whopping $9,250, we decided to offer this course at $1,499. And if you want to sign up with the code SIGNMEUP before the end of this webinar, you'll get $300 off the course, and it's yours for only $1,200. All you have to do is to sign up at simplestartup.com/financial modeling and input the code SIGNMEUP to get started. And remember, even though I have a successful business, I'm not special. I just have a proven financial roadmap for my business, which I follow to the letter. Check in on weekly and course correct accordingly. Again, some more slide issues here, apologies. So all you have to do is go to simplestartup.com financial modeling. You'll go down to the bottom where you'll see 2 options. One track you'll find on the page, pricing page, is for a consumer packaged goods company, in other words, a product company. There's also a service company too. So if you're a SaaS company, pick that service company option. Pick whichever option is best for you in the industry that you're in. You can then check out and you receive a confirmation email with the information you need to log in to the members only site. Further slide issues appears to me here. We're going to be going into the live Q&A. So if you have any questions, type them into the chat and I'll answer as many of your questions as possible. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Lorne. I'm going to read off a couple of the questions that have come through. The first one is, so for your Fill in the Blanks course, does somebody need financial statements beforehand?
Yeah, great question. And the answer is no, you don't need to have financial statements beforehand. So I'll clarify on the question, do you need to have financial history and a lot of information backed up in order to prepare your financial forecast in the future? The answer is no. Every company starts at a different point in their life cycle and business life cycle. Clearly, if you do have financial statements from the past, or if you do have information and you have history of making sales and you understand how your business model works, clearly that's going to be really helpful in making more accurate assumptions going forward, but it's not necessary.
Awesome. Can the model in the fill in the blanks course be customized for a business, industry, and any other more specific situations?
Yeah, absolutely. So, one of our core goals here with our Academy offerings is to take all of our detailed CFO knowledge, wrap it up in a standard off-the-shelf product to kind of make it very, very cost-effective to kind of everyone. Our goal is to help as many people as possible get CFO-level services in a most cost-effective manner. So the question is, can I customize the model? You can absolutely customize it. We can work with you to develop any form of customization that you need. But please note that the customization piece is kind of like additional time and it's not included in the course price.
Mm-hmm. What kind of time commitment can somebody expect if they're to take the course to be able to actually understand the cash flow?
Yeah, so the more that you can put in, the better. The more that you really kind of like understand each of these lessons, participate in the kind of the weekly CFO sessions, bring questions that link to what you're learning as you're going through certain parts of the course. That is really that is going to be very, very helpful for your evolution throughout the 5 weeks. As a rough rule of thumb, I would say that you would probably want to set aside a couple of hours to digest all of the lessons and perhaps a further 2 to 3 hours to gather all of the appropriate information. So I would say set aside approximately 30 minutes to 1 hour every morning just to progress through the course in more bite-sized chunks. That way you can just split it up 30 minutes to an hour every morning before you start kind of your day-to-day activities, and you'll be really off to the races before the end of the 5 weeks.
Awesome. And lastly, are there any quick indicators or tips that you can share that would let a founder know that it might be time to actually pitch to an investor?
Yeah, I think when is the right time? I would always say the right time to be building investor relationships on the basis that that's the avenue you're wanting to take as a business in the future. Start having those relationships today. To start just building the relationships today, reaching out, talking to various different investment firms, whether this be a VC, whether this be kind of a seasoned angel networks, etc. Just reach out, building those relationships, asking them questions. They will likely be kind of interested in your business because they want to look at the lead flow of potential deals. They may end up telling you, hey, you're too early for us right now, at which point don't leave the conversation there. I would highly encourage you to say, great, well, wonderful, too early just now. What's the stage are you appropriate and right for this type of investment? And they'll give you some more information. Great, you now know when you should reach back out to them. In addition, you could ask them to say, hey, would you mind if I put you on our mailer list that tells you about the developments of our company? And that's a wonderful way to continue to build that relationship so that when investment does come around the corner, you're not picking up a cold relationship. They already know you, they already understand what you're doing, and you've met your word and you've told them, I'm going to send you an update every month. Great. Well, then send it every month, and you're building trust, you're building credibility, you're also building a relationship, and so that will help you dramatically later down the line. But generally speaking, I would say, clearly, if you are forecasting to be out of cash, in other words, you're building a business that is tomorrow's business today, you're likely to be burning through cash. And if you've got anywhere less than 6 months of cash remaining, you need to be having those conversations today, because it takes, at absolute minimum, again, dependent on check size, depending on who you're raising money from, etc., an absolute minimum would be 3 months from knowing a relationship to getting cash through the door. I would say forecast 6 months, and you always want to have an additional 3 months in cash when you're actually getting those investor checks in. So have a good, at least sort of 9 months of capital and starting those relationships now, with the view to closing on those investor checks in 3 to 6, a little bit over 6 months.
Awesome. Great. That is super helpful. Does anybody else on the call have any other questions? You're welcome to unmute yourself. Maybe let it sit for a few more seconds, and then if not, we might be able to wrap up. Okay, no worries. Well, thank you so much. Oh, here your slides works. So everybody can go click on those links. If you're a part of Kiln, I'll send those into our community Slacks as well, so you can access them to sign up for their course or just to learn more about Simple Startup and what they can do for you and your business right now. But thank you so much, Lorne. Thank you for your time and for all of the amazing insights. We really appreciate it. Hope you have a good day. Hope everybody else has a good day too.